Tomlinson is the MP for North Swindon. He's one of those MPs who have come home to the West tonight. So welcome back to the West, Mr. Tomlinson. First of all, you probably heard there in our report, people asking about Boris Johnson. You were asked about that today in an interview and said it would be wishful thinking. Are those your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, look, I was part of Team Boris. I was sad to see him go. He did go of his own making. I have to acknowledge that. And he ultimately went because he lost the support of the parliamentary party. I was very much in the minority at the end. So wishful thinking, I just can't see him getting those numbers that are going to be required on Monday. I have a feeling it is wishful thinking from some of my friends who are strong supporters of his.
Yeah, and not from others who we have already heard from as well. Do you fear for your job moving forward now?
Look, I've been in this game now 22 years as a councillor, as an MP. You have ups and downs, but as I set out today, we've got to be grown up. We've got to be pragmatic, and we've got to make sure we put the country first. And we have got to take swift and decisive action. Now, last Friday, Jeremy Hunt was brought in as the Chancellor. I was surprised by that decision. But it was a good decision. It calmed the markets. That matters because this is people's mortgages, people's pensions, people's livelihoods. We've got to do exactly the same with the new Prime Minister.
I think the trouble is ups and downs is one way of putting it. And of course, in any tenure, that would happen. But this is unprecedented, unusual, unforeseen, unpredictable. I mean, it's all of the things that we could ever think of. How can you ever recover your party from this?
Yeah, it's all of those things and more. And look, absolutely. And I'm hearing those vox pops. I live in my constituency. I talk to people. I understand this, but putting party politics aside, we've got a responsibility to do the right thing. That's what we're elected to do. And I don't mind who is the Prime Minister on Monday, as long as they get everybody together. I want the runners and riders to be in a room. I want them to find a way that they can all be part of the team. We need our most able politicians, those who are comfortable in the media, those who've got a track record of delivering as cabinet ministers to make tangible difference to the public. I'm not interested in a contest. I want a team. I don't mind who the individual is. I want a team to give us the best chance as a government to tackle head on. But
look what happened last time when people were interested in who it would be. We've got very little time. Who would you be backing this time?
Whoever can secure the team, the best people as a collective group. I'm not fussed about the individual. I don't care whether they're Remain, whether Brexiteers, ERGers or One Nations. That's all in the past. I want the best of our party at that top table. And I expect them to be grown up. I expect them to be pragmatic. And I expect them to sort that out very, very quickly.
OK, Justin Tomlinson.
The resignation of the Prime Minister, who has notified the King. We're going to get reaction from another Conservative MP now. I think we have on the line Justin Tomlinson. Justin, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Libby.
What's your first feeling, your first reaction to Liz Truss's resignation?
Yeah, it's a sigh. I quickly put out a tweet and it said we need to be grown up, pragmatic and understand we absolutely have to put the country first. There is complete bewilderment out there amongst the public, and these are serious times, and we have all just going to have to find a way quickly to get through this.
It's been a horrible time, hasn't it? I think even my most left-wing acquaintances have been expressing actual pity for Conservative backbenchers. It's been a very grim time for you all, hasn't it?
Yeah, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I'm sure lots of books will be written about what happened. But for what it was worth, we as a country are frazzled post-COVID, post-Brexit, post-leadership contests, Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine and the impact on living costs. And I think the country's appetite was for a period of calmness, and too much was done too soon, too quickly. It's a shame. The policies, I don't think, were the issue. The issue was the country and the parliamentary party wasn't ready for such breakneck speed.
Well, the markets weren't ready, were they? The markets weren't ready.
No, absolutely. And corrections had to be made. And the moment that was done, credibility was lost, party discipline was then undermined. But now, in this point about putting the country first, we have collectively got together, and the key players, frankly, need to be locked in a room and they need to come up with a way that they are a united team. I'm not going to lose any sleep over which one it is, but I want all of them to be part of the solution. We need our best media performers. We need our most experienced, able cabinet ministers at that very top table, because it's not just a case of what's good for our party, it's what's good for the country. We've got a huge responsibility in our shoulders, and that's why I'm saying we've got to be grown up and pragmatic in these coming days.
But the polls are very bleak reading for the Conservative Party.
Character building, very character building.
Yeah, but which of the candidates, the potential candidates, and there's been talk even of it going back to the membership, which within a week it's not going to be able to do easily, is it? I mean, which of the candidates do you think can build the character again?
Well, this goes back to my point I've just made. They've all got strengths, but they can't do it on their own. They have to do it as a team, and it is the individual who can make the team rally round them so that you've got the best media performers, you've got the most able, experienced cabinet people to be brought forward, because this is bigger than the party. This is about the country.
We still have Charlotte Ivers here. Charlotte, you wanted to step in?
And Justin, there will now be calls for a general election. Certainly the Labour Party are ramping up those calls. What is your sense of how the Conservative Party avoids that? Because obviously I'm struggling to find Conservative MPs who think that that would be beneficial at this stage in the game. Do you need to return more to the programme Boris Johnson set out, for which you have a mandate, or is there another way?
Well, I mean, two elements. Whilst the public is bewildered, by and large, we're not being overwhelmed with demands for a general election. My earlier point about the country's frazzled, having gone through COVID, Brexit, leadership contests, now navigating energy costs, there isn't a huge appetite. I can imagine Brenda in Bristol, her reaction to that prospect. Look, we've been elected for 5 years as individual MPs, and we have now got to step up and make sure we can provide that calmness, that stability, and that strength of that top team. And that's why I'm not wedded to an individual. I'm wedded to an individual being able to bring a team together. If we can do that, we can get on with the job that we're paid to do.
Do you think that Jeremy Hunt is going to continue as Chancellor? Is a very, very short period in it, or is it time for another Chancellor?
I was surprised when he was the choice. Gosh, it seems a long time ago, wasn't it? Just last Friday. But, he's an experienced businessman in his own right. He typifies calmness, which is very much in vogue at the moment. And he definitely has to be part of that top team. And I would say he's got a very strong claim to remain in that position. The markets have responded well to him. And again, as part of us being pragmatic, I don't care what wing of the party people are. I don't care how they voted in Brexit all of that time ago. There is so much water under the bridge now. This is about making sure we've got all of our best people at the top of the table, because our party needs to get this right. And we have our duty to the nation. Well, we need the top team to be at the best of our colleagues, not who's friends with who, not who voted which way in the referendum, not which faction or group they happen to be in. We need the very best of our colleagues. I'm not part of that. That's not me. I'm not pitching for a job. But I owe it to the country, I owe it to my fellow local residents that we have our strongest performance. And I'll give you an example. Now, Jeremy Hunt's ruled himself out. I was surprised when he was made as the Chancellor on Friday. But as somebody who is a successful businessman in his own right, he has come forward, he's taken decisive action to respond to the changing circumstances, and he steadied the markets. Now, that matters. That matters because that's people's pensions. That matters because that is people's mortgage rates. And that matters because it's about credibility and our ability to raise the sufficient funding for our public services. And eventually, when things settle back down, to make sure we can start cutting taxes again for hardworking families back in Swindon.
Now,
I want...
On that point, Justin, sorry to interrupt, but we hear this afternoon Labour explicitly calling for a general election. We hear the Liberal Democrats calling for a general election as the only way out of this. Why, given what we have been through, how far we are away from that 2019 manifesto, how many prime ministers we've been through since, how many changes of direction we've seen, why should you guys still be in government? Why should we not go back to the country at this point in time? If we're putting the country first, not the party, why should we not have a general election?
Look, understood. And as you know, as you would expect the sun to come up in the morning, of course, opposition parties call for elections. We'd be doing exactly the same in opposition. That's just how politics works. But there isn't an appetite. You know, Labour have been voting with us on the major issues in the last 2 weeks. And interestingly, as they're now starting to come under greater media scrutiny, they are finding that difficult. And, you know, you'd only have to get Brenda from Bristol on the phone and she would be screaming if there was a prospect of another general election. And look, yes, times have changed since 2019. We've had COVID, we've had Brexit, we've had a leadership contest. What people are wanting is stability and calmness. And that means, and this is my point about us being grown up and being pragmatic, we don't need a 6-week prolonged beauty contest. This isn't about egos. It isn't about individuals. It is
so
about
it should be up to you. You Tory MPs are the ones who get to choose,
and making sure they're all part of what we do going forward. That is what we owe to the country.
The final one for me. Several of our listeners have already got in touch in the last hour since this news, saying bring back Boris. I can't see that happening personally. No, I just wonder what your thoughts are on that, because you were the last man standing supporting him in terms of the Wiltshire MPs.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the last standing with Boris. I was a Boris supporter, but he lost the support of the party. I'd be surprised. I'd be very, very surprised.
You and me both.
You know, there are some colleagues who are calling for it, but I think, you know, I was a supporter, but I suspect that vote is probably, it's not now. Not now. I'd be surprised.